We're considering private member statements. I call the member for Rockdale.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I rise to raise the concerns of many of my local constituents following the rollout of the point-to-point transport additional assistance payment scheme. Back in June 2016, when the point-to-point transport taxi and hire vehicles Act was passed by the New South Wales Parliament, industry participants such as taxi licence plate holders were promised that they would be fairly compensated by this government as part of the deregulation of their industry. While it is bad enough that the final tranche of the compensation payments promised at the time had only been rolled out by 30th of June this year, 3 years after they were first promised, there are still a number of major issues causing significant hardship to those members of our community who invested in this government-backed and regulated asset in good faith. Speaker, first, there remains an urgent need for the state government to make representations to their federal counterparts regarding the tax treatment and Centrelink assessment of the additional assistance payments. I have said repeatedly that it would only be fair that since taxi plate owners are essentially being compensated for the significant decline in their asset value, the state government should declare that all payments under the compensation scheme be considered capital adjustments. This didn't happen with the $20,000 per plate transitional assistance payment, and as a result, taxi plate holders generally had to pay out thousands of dollars in tax as part of their assessable income when they received those payments. It is truly unfortunate that the government made the same mistake again with the additional assistance payments, and once again significant portions of these payments are going straight to federal revenue. Worse still, while the state government eventually reached an agreement that transitional assistance payments would not be assessed for the purpose of Centrelink payments, pensioners are once again going through incredible heartache with additional assistance payments being included in income for Centrelink purposes. The combined effects of these two factors means that one of my constituents, who has received $72,000 in additional assistance payments, will receive a net benefit of just $19,000 once you consider the loss of his and his wife's part pension and the tax that they will have to pay. Here's a basic tip for those opposite. It is not normal in our federation for state governments to subsidise the feds. The second major issue continues to be the gross inadequacy of compensation offered to the taxi plate owners. Taxi plates have historically been a government-regulated asset. The state government sold many of these plates and was happy to accept the revenue generated or gave them away to deserving groups such as war widows. With those sales came the promise that the government would regulate and protect the point-to-point transport sector, that what you were invested in was similar to a government bond. In September 2012, prior to the rise of ride-sharing services in Sydney, taxi plates were trading at an average of around $430,000 each. It was not uncommon for retirees, particularly those from migrant backgrounds, to invest their life savings in taxi plates because they were seen as a secure way to fund their retirements. Today, those same taxi plates are trading well under $100,000 each, Mr Speaker, amounting to a loss in capital value of more than $350,000 per plate, a huge loss to be faced by anybody in an investment, and one almost incomprehensible for many of the retirees who thought the government had promised to look after them when they invested in taxi plates. When the government has paid out an average of only around $50,000 per plate in compensation for losses of up to $350,000, it really makes you question whether the government scheme can even be called compensation. I understand that the holders of hire car licences have been fully compensated based on the cost of their investment, and I don't understand why taxi plate holders don't deserve the same consideration, Mr Speaker. Currently, the state government levies $1 per point-to-point journey to fund this scheme. All it would take to more fairly compensate the holders of taxi plates would be to extend this levy, to extend it until they are fully paid out on the amount of their good faith investment. Thank you.
I thank the member for Rockdale.